With the imperial treasury strained, Pei preferred to patch and mend the dragon robe. He couldn't bear to spare Li Yangyang even a box of snail shell coal. From that moment on, I withdrew from palace intrigues, devoting myself solely to playing leaf cards with my sisters in the harem. Just as my card skills grew increasingly adept, sweeping the entire palace, at a court banquet, all were praying for the young prince born to consort Xian. The emperor, who had once willingly tightened his belt for Li Yangyang, erupted in fury. He hurled his wine cup at her feet. I only sought to perpetuate our line. How could you be so consumed by jealousy? 3 months after Pei ascended the throne, I was crowned empress. Not because he harbored any affection for me, but for 2 other reasons. First, my noble birth and reputation as the capital's most praised young lady made me a worthy choice. Second, after 3 months of failed attempts to persuade the officials to crown his beloved as empress, Pei had to settle for the next best option. The day I entered the palace was the first day of spring, the most auspicious time of the year. Yet for me, this moment marked the darkest hour of my life. The world speaks of a phoenix rising from a branch, but who understands the longing to remain a sparrow on a branch rather than a phoenix in a cage? On our wedding night, Pei arrived heavily intoxicated, his gaze dark in warning. "You are now empress," he declared. "You must fulfill your duties as such. My heart belongs wholly to Yangyang. All I can offer you is the honor of the empress." His thoughts were elsewhere. Even after drowning himself in wine, he failed to give me the wedding night I deserved. After speaking, he didn't even take the round fan from my hand. Without a single glance at me, he staggered out of Fini Palace. I heard he stood outside the imperial consort's reed palace all night. Early spring brought heavy rains. Though the downpour soaked his boots and drenched his dragon robe, he never left. Inside the reed palace, candlelight illuminated the chamber, faint whispers of low sobs drifting out. Finally, the imperial consort emerged barefoot, throwing herself into the emperor's embrace. "Show," I thought. "You no longer cared for me. Silly Yangyang, you are the only one in my heart. For all my days, I shall never betray you." Were I a mere spectator, I would surely weep at the sincerity of their love. But I am a character within the play, the superfluous one, and it only leaves a bitter taste in my throat. If they are so deeply in love, why must they drag me into it? I followed the emperor's orders, dutifully fulfilling the responsibilities expected of an empress. Of course, beyond the consort Li, who held a special place in Pei heart, and myself, the empress, there were other consorts in the harem. To consolidate imperial power, daughters of influential ministers were naturally brought into the palace. However much Pei loved Li Yangyang, he could not grant her a lifetime of exclusive devotion, at least not in name. Yet like me, they were merely decorative vases, holding branches of flowers already withered. Consort De was like a peony, noble and graceful. Consort Shu was like a plum blossom, resilient and vibrant. Yet none retained the beauty of their prime, each bearing a touch more withered grace. Consort De lazily propped her chin, flinging the leaf-shaped token from the table onto the floor. "Three's a crowd. Why didn't that dog emperor take in one more?" Consort Shu, flipping through a text, covered her mouth and chuckled softly. "Keep your voice down. Don't let others hear such treasonous words." Consort De pursed her lips and turned her gaze back to Kai Qing. "Kai Qing, will you play with us a little longer?" Sai Qing's hand, grinding ink for me, paused. Her face was filled with sorrow and resentment. "Consort De, I've lost all my monthly allowance to you." The implication was clear, she was powerless to help. Only after drafting the imperial edict and affixing the phoenix seal did I find time to lift my gaze to them. "Don't worry, Consort De. We'll soon have no shortage of people." Consort De and Consort Shu exchanged glances before approaching me to examine the imperial decree. Consort De slammed her hand on the table and railed at Pei "What a despicable dog of an emperor. He won't even spare the youngest daughter of the Liu family. She's only 15. Consort Shu stole a glance at me before cautiously speaking. "If this servant recalls correctly, the Liu family's son and your majesty were once betrothed." I tucked the edict away and handed it to Kai Qing, replying indifferently, "That's all in the past." From the moment the imperial decree crowning her empress reached the chancellor's residence, it could only be a thing of the past. What's done is done. Chasing after it brings nothing back. Lu Si and I were but a fleeting illusion, destined to be apart. The imperial decree reached the loyal righteousness Marquis's residence. The palanquin carried Lu Yuan into this gilded cage, just as it had once carried me. Pei Yusho, bound by his lifelong promise to Li Yangyang, naturally never set foot in Lu Yuan's palace of eternal peace. He merely bestowed the title of Consort Xian as a consolation. When the young Consort Xian came to pay her respects at the Feni Palace, her eyes were swollen and red like walnuts. The boisterous consort shoved a leaf token into Consort Xian's hand. "Don't cry, dear sister. Men are just toys. If you don't have one, so be it. We have better things to play with here. This leaf card game is missing one player, just waiting for you." Perhaps never having encountered such a boisterous noblewoman before, the Consort Xian stopped even her quiet sobs, staring blankly at the Consort De. Whether Consort De should have been a teacher is unclear, but within the time it took to drink a cup of tea, she had taught the Consort Xian how to play leaf cards. I was swamped myself, juggling the palace's expenditure ledgers with managing the harem's affairs. Even preparing congratulatory gifts for noble families celebrating births fell to me. Noticing my furrowed brow, Consort Shu approached. True to her grand tutor's legacy, she instantly spotted the discrepancy in the accounts. A third of the palace's expenditures go to the Reed Palace. This Pei Yusho, not having managed a household, knows nothing of the cost of daily necessities. In just 1 year on the throne, he spent nearly twice what was spent in the previous 2 years combined. The noble Consort De couldn't help but laugh upon hearing our conversation. Who in this palace doesn't know His Majesty's favor toward the noble consort? Even the candlesticks in Jinjiao Palace are made of gold. I sighed, staring at the remaining balance in the ledger. I'm afraid I can't join you for leaf cards today. I must pay a visit to Qianan Palace. Just as Consort Xian was about to take her leave, Consort De pulled her back. No need to rush, Your Highness. We'll wait for you. True enough. Days in the palace stretch endlessly. One must find diversions, how else to endure such tedium? Upon arriving at Qianan Palace, Pei Yusho was baking peach cookies with Li Yangyang. Li Yangyang accidentally knocked over a glass bowl, causing Pei Yusho to wince with concern. "Yangyang, are you hurt? Don't bend down to pick it up. It's just a glass cup. If it cuts your finger, I'll be heartbroken." Truthfully, I was heartbroken too, heartbroken over that glass cup. A tribute from the western regions, it was priceless, worth half a month's allowance for all the palace maids. The two of them were so engrossed in their sweetness that they didn't notice my presence for quite some time. "Why has the Empress come? What brings you here?" Pei Yusho knew well that I never visited without cause. Kai Qing handed the ledger to Pei Yusho. He flipped through it briefly before frowning. "Your Majesty, Jizhou suffers drought while Yenzhou endures floods. The treasury has already allocated funds for relief." No need to spell it out, Pei Yusho understood perfectly well. Li Yangyang seemed oblivious to Pei Yusho's troubled expression, instead eagerly showing him the freshly baked peach cookies. Look, these turned out best." Pei Yusho's gaze softened the moment he saw Li Yangyang. He affectionately ruffled her hair. "Of course, anything made by Yangyang is splendid." Turning to me, he added, "I understand. I'll see to it." I wasn't fond of watching such displays of affection either, so I picked up the ledger and started to leave. Just then, I heard Li Yangyang cry out in pain. Unable to resist, I glanced back. She'd scalded her hand on splashing hot water, leaving a red patch and tears welling in her eyes. Pei Yusho was instantly overcome with heartache. Truth be told, Li Yangyang was truly beautiful, comparable to the moon goddess Chang'e descending to earth. Even I couldn't help but feel tender toward her now, with her tear-streaked face like a weeping pear blossom. Had Li Yangyang not been of such low birth, and had Pei Yusho's position not been so precarious, the Empress's throne would never have fallen to me. Even before entering the palace, I had heard of the deep affection between them, a love so profound and heartrending. When Pei Yusho was still crown prince, he was hunted down and accidentally fell into the moat. Carried by the swift current, he drifted to a small village where Li Yangyang saved him. They fell in love at first sight and pledged their lives to each other. Whether it was the hero rescuing the beauty or the beauty saving the hero, it was a legendary tale. Add imperial power and a beauty to the mix, and it became even more dramatic, something to envy. When Peiyusho said he'd take care of things, it turned out he'd cut our monthly allowances, his own and those of us concubines. But the imperial consort's provisions remained untouched, still 20 bolts of cloud brocade each month, still the most precious snail shell coal, still grapes rushed by express horse from the western regions. The noble consort snapped the handle of her fan in fury. That dog of an emperor! Using our money to win a smile from that beauty? It's utterly revolting. I smiled faintly and tried to comfort her. Don't be so upset. He's still mindful of our family backgrounds. He's been even harsher on himself, even cutting back on his favorite grilled shrimp. The noble consort Shu chimed in, I hear His Majesty is even wearing the same dragon robe repeatedly now. Consort Xian sneered disdainfully, at least he's sincere with Consort Gui. Consort Xian cradled her Persian cat, looking at us in puzzlement. But we all have our private funds. Even if His Majesty reduces our monthly allowances, we won't be worse off than we are now. The three of us exchanged knowing smiles. She was still just a young girl, utterly unaware of the complexities of the imperial harem. What's lacking isn't our meager allowances, but the relief funds for Jeju's drought and Yenzhou's floods. Still, as empress, I've said all I must. How Peiyusho acts is entirely his own choice. Alas, Peiyusho failed to remain the devoted husband who cherished his consort noble. With 2 regions suffering severe disasters, he had no choice but to cut expenses at the Reed Palace. Deprived of her favorite grapes, Li Yangyang quarreled with Peiyusho. Already troubled by state affairs, his beloved not only failed to understand but flew into a rage. In his anger, Peiyusho also spoke harshly. Yangyang, you were born a peasant girl. You once ate bran and vegetables without complaint, yet now you can't bear to go without grapes. It's my excessive pampering that spoiled you into this temperament. Li Yangyang stared at the man before her in disbelief for a long moment before storming out in fury. She leapt into the lotus pond. Early autumn chilled the water to its core. Peiyusho personally dived into the lotus pond to rescue Li Yangyang. When I received word and rushed over, I heard the imperial physician reporting. Your Majesty, the imperial consort has suffered a miscarriage. Cold has entered her body once more. It is feared she may never conceive again. The sound of porcelain shattering followed, accompanied by Peiyusho's furious roar. If you cannot cure the imperial consort, I will have the entire Imperial Medical Academy buried with her. Being an imperial physician was arguably the most perilous profession within the palace walls. Especially when dealing with an emperor like Peiyusho, who cherished someone deeply, one misstep could easily turn you into a sacrificial offering. Silence fell. The physicians dared not speak. The imperial consort turned her face away, refusing to look at Peiyusho. Only I stood there, unable to advance or retreat. It was the physicians who finally noticed my presence. Their greeting of Your Majesty drew Peiyusho's gaze. I've always been perceptive. I simply stepped forward to offer the imperial consort a few words of comfort, arranged for numerous restorative tonics to be sent to her, and then returned to my Fini Palace. Inside Fini Palace, Consort De was counting the prepared fruit platters, and even Consort Shu had put down her book, looking up at me expectantly. Seeing me return, Consort De hurriedly pulled me down to sit, not forgetting to place a handful of cherry-candied fruit in my hand. Your Highness, quickly, tell us everything. Knowing they had waited here for this very matter, I recounted everything I knew to them in full detail. Then came a wave of sighs and murmurs. Consort De said, we can't blame Consort Gui. Pregnant women are notoriously picky eaters. Consort Shu remarked, nor can we fault the emperor. He didn't know Consort Gui was pregnant, and he truly was preoccupied with state affairs. Consort Xian sighed, His Majesty is so deeply devoted, to have personally jumped into the lotus pond to save her. Seeing the look of longing on Consort Xian's face, the 3 of us exchanged glances. Young girls always become enthralled by such romantic tales. While such stories are generally wholesome, here, they were not. The noble consort Shu picked up her book again and sighed softly, they say there's no such thing as a wall that doesn't let the wind through. I wonder if the walls of this palace are built thick enough. Clearly, the old saying held true. Even palace walls weren't impenetrable. News of the imperial consort's inability to conceive had spread. During morning court, officials petitioned one after another, "The imperial heir is the foundation of the state. We beseech your majesty to extend the imperial lineage and swiftly expand the royal family." Peiyushu flew into a rage, threatening to tear out the tongues of those spreading the rumors. Li Yangyang wept several more times, growing even more fragile. Peiyushu tried to comfort her for a long while to no avail, so he summoned me to Qian'an Palace. "Empress, what is your view on this matter?" I could only gaze at the nail polish on my hands and murmur, "Your Majesty, the harem must not interfere in state affairs." However, this humble servant believes that with proper recuperation, the imperial consort's health will improve. Peiyushu did not seem relieved by my words. Instead, he gazed at me with a lingering look. "It's been nearly 2 years since you entered the palace. I truly have wronged you." I offered no reply, merely smiled. I couldn't fathom which wrong he spoke of. Was it severing the bond between lovers, or crowning you empress only to neglect you? Thus, we sat in silence once more. Originally, Peiyushu was supposed to visit Funi Palace on the 1st and 15th of each month. Yet each time, it was always the same. He sat quietly while I attended to palace affairs or practiced calligraphy and painting. Occasionally he'd offer a compliment, "The Empress's calligraphy is truly exquisite," or "Her paintings capture life with remarkable precision." In short, there was no warmth beneath crimson candles, only silent gazes. Later, he scarcely came at all, leaving me with peace at last. After sitting for a long while, a palace maid from the imperial consort's quarters arrived. "Your Majesty, the consort. She intends to take her own life." Peiyushu was startled and hurried off. I breathed a sigh of relief. Kai-Ching whispered, "The imperial consort is truly audacious. A concubine taking her own life is a grave crime, yet she dares use it to threaten His Majesty." Watching the distant figure in imperial yellow fade away, I shook my head. "Kai-Ching, I fear our days will no longer be peaceful." Kai-Ching understood and promptly left Funi Palace. When she returned, worry clouded her expression. "Your Highness, the imperial consort threw quite a tantrum." Between the lines, she demanded. "His Majesty must not favor any other consorts." Unsurprisingly, Li Yangyang cherished most the promise of exclusive devotion from Peiyushu. Having already conceded to his taking other consorts, how could she possibly consent to him bearing children with another woman? Li Yangyang smashed numerous porcelain and jade pieces within the Reed Palace, and one wine cup had even struck Peiyushu squarely on the forehead, drawing blood instantly. Inside the Reed Palace, palace maids and eunuchs knelt scattered across the floor. Only Li Yangyang, heedless of Peiyushu's darkening expression, continued to berate him. "Peiyushu! You swore you'd love only me for a lifetime. Are you going back on your word now? If you dare have a child with another woman, I'll never let you off the hook." Peiyushu watched Li Yangyang, who seemed possessed by madness, and offered only one sentence, "You're too willful." The next day, Consort De and Consort Shu arrived at Funi Palace as usual. Consort De pursed her lips, sipping bird's nest porridge as she said, "Last night, that dog emperor actually came to my palace." Consort Shu froze. "Last night, he visited my palace too. I told him I was indisposed due to my period and couldn't attend to him." Consort De slammed her hand on the table. "No wonder." His first words upon arrival were, "The Empress and Consort Shu both said they were indisposed." "Don't tell me you are too." Kai-Ching covered her mouth and giggled. "So how did your Highness handle it?" "I said I injured my body riding horses as a child and can't conceive," Consort De declared triumphantly, lifting her chin. Consort De suddenly fell silent. "What do you think? Where did that dog emperor sleep last night?" The square table now felt one person short. Consort Shu sighed. "Your Highness, you really should have talked some sense into her." With a soft chuckle, I replied, "A young girl's heart, how could anyone persuade her?" Consort De nodded knowingly. "True. One must admit, that dog emperor truly possesses a fine face. Coupled with his innate nobility and pride, he easily captivates young, inexperienced girls." As we spoke, Consort Xian arrived. Her face bore the bashful blush of a maiden experiencing her first menstruation. Seeing her like this, Consort De and Consort Shu found their words of advice stuck in their throats. Yet her joy lasted but a few days before her eyes swelled red again, puffy like walnuts, just as they had been on her first day in the palace. Consort Xian wept, her head buried in the tabletop. I haven't seen His Majesty in 2 months. That night, he clearly said he loved me. Consort De, though seething with anger, restrained herself and soothed her gently. My dear sister, don't grieve over such a man. A man's words are the least trustworthy. Consort Shu, unusually, chimed in, indeed, that Pei Yusho is truly no suitable match. Why torment yourself over him? Only I shattered her last shred of hope outright. You knew all along that Pei Yusho only truly loved Li Yangyang. Yet you flew like a moth to the flame, who can blame you? With that, Consort Xian's sobs grew louder. Before we could say more, she retched again. Consort Shu frowned. Could it be? She's pregnant? Kai Qing immediately summoned the imperial physician. Indeed, she was already 2 months along. The prospect of an imperial heir should have been cause for great celebration. Yet Jinjiao Palace was thrown into utter chaos. Pei Yusho, you bastard. No wonder you've been coaxing me day after day these past 2 months, behind my back, you've been doing this. Get out! Get out of my Jinjiao Palace. I never want to see you again for the rest of my life. Pei Yusho listened silently to Li Yangyang's tirade, lowering his head. Only when the shouting ceased did he speak softly to soothe her. It's my fault. I shouldn't have gone drinking after our argument. Yangyang. I did it for the imperial heir. I have no feelings for her whatsoever. Please don't be angry anymore, okay? Next, Li Yangyang shoved Pei Yusho out the door. Then, without hesitation, she slammed it shut with a loud bang. Seems I arrived at the wrong time. Seeing Lu Yuan standing nearby, tears welling in her eyes as she held back her sorrow, I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. So young, deceived by Pei Yusho, now pregnant and hearing the man she cherished say such things, how could she not be heartbroken? I clasped her icy little hand. Yuan, having a child is a blessing. Truly, in my view, an emperor's favor meant less than a child. Lu Yuan stared at Pei Yusho standing by the gate of the Reed Palace for a long time. I couldn't tell if she'd taken my words to heart. That night, the first snow of the year fell. It wasn't heavy, just fine flakes drifting down, settling in a thin layer on the eaves and pear blossoms. Pei Yusho came through the snow. For a moment, I thought I was seeing an old friend. Perhaps because Li Yangyang had caused such a scene with him, he wore a sour expression and showed no desire to engage in polite pretense with me. Empress, regarding the child in Consort Xian's womb, do you believe it will be a prince or a princess? A prince? How could I possibly answer such a question? Whether prince or princess, it is His Majesty's bloodline. Pei Yusho narrowed his eyes at me. Is that so? It is not merely this emperor's bloodline. Another silence fell. Empress, tend well to Consort Xian. Ensure she delivers the child safely. I rose to see him off. Your servant obeys the imperial decree. Kai Qing helped me sit down and closed the doors and windows. Your Majesty, the emperor's meaning is. She dared not voice it aloud, it was too treasonous. I sipped my hot tea. It's nothing. He'll weigh the options himself, whether he wants a prince with Lu family blood or risks having no heir at all. Clearly, he chose the former. After all, he was bound by his promise to the noble consort and could not favor other consorts again. Xian Fei stopped weeping and focused solely on nurturing her pregnancy. Xu Fei, skilled with her hands, made many tiny garments for the unborn child. De Fei couldn't help but tease Xu Fei for being overly cautious. Why are they all blue and pink? Yellow or blue would be perfectly acceptable too. Glancing at me, Consort Shu whispered, the one in the reed pavilion. She's with child. Consort De gasped, wasn't she said to be unable to conceive? No wonder they've grown even more affectionate since that last incident. So that's why. She glanced at Consort Xian, whose pregnancy was now visible. There she was, gently caressing her belly, holding the tiger head cap made by Consort Shu with obvious affection. Seeing Consort Xian was unperturbed, Consort Shu continued, they only said it would be difficult. With His Majesty's favor, there will always be a chance. I set down my brush, the plans for the New Year's Eve banquet finally drafted. His Majesty, wishing to celebrate the imperial consort's pregnancy, has specifically ordered me to prepare the New Year's Eve banquet with great care. Peiyusho's favoritism toward Li Yangyang was no secret, and now he displayed both sides of his character with striking clarity. Consider this, Consort Xian's pregnancy brought her no imperial favors whatsoever. Not even Lady Lu was permitted to visit her in the palace, let alone host a lavish banquet in celebration. The New Year's Eve banquet was a bustling affair, with officials gathering to drink and converse freely. Amidst that feast, I saw the one I longed for day and night. He stood before me, cloaked in black, snow dusting his hair, silhouetted against the light. I recalled our first meeting, he had worn the same attire then. "Who are you, little girl? Why are you out in this blizzard? Where are your family?" I had gone out of town to burn incense, but bandits suddenly attacked. In the chaos, my family and I were separated. Hiding behind a carriage, I heard the clatter of hooves, the clang of swords, and the cheers of victory. Shivering, I dared not peek out until he appeared before me, riding a white horse. "Who are you, little girl?" Seeing I didn't speak, he pulled a token from his robe. The character Lu was engraved upon it. The Lu family army, undoubtedly a source of comfort for the people of Dashing. I stood up, trembling. "My name is Jiang Liar. My father is Chancellor Jiang." I don't know why, but in that moment, I wanted him to know my name. The youth nodded and extended a hand to me. "Climb up. I'll take you home." The distinction between men and women was a rule I'd learned since childhood, yet for the first time, I disregarded it and reached out my hand. He shielded me in front of him, wrapping me in his large cloak. Even in such heavy snow, not a single flake touched me. That cloak wrapped around me was the warmest I'd ever known. As we neared the city gate, he helped me down from the horse. "Miss Jiang, the mountain paths are treacherous in snow. I'm sorry to have inconvenienced you by sharing my mount. Now that we're almost at the gate, you should take a carriage into the city." I asked him, "What is your name?" "I wish to repay you." The youth smiled again. "Lucy." With that, he rode off on his white horse, snow fluttering around him. "Your servant Lucy pays his respects to His Majesty, Her Majesty the Empress, and Her Majesty the Imperial Consort." A familiar voice pulled me from my memories. Lucy took his seat with proper decorum. Yet he seemed quieter now, not engaging in conversation with others, only occasionally sipping from his cup. I wonder if he can still recognize it, that pear blossom drunk wine I brewed myself. The imperial consort adored lively festivities, so the banquet featured numerous songs and dances. After such a long feast, one grew weary, especially when one's face must perpetually wear a smile that was both appropriate and measured. As the gathering dispersed, Lucy rose and performed a deep bow before Peiyusho. "Your Majesty, I wish to take this flask of wine with me." Peiyusho supported the pregnant consort, surprised that Lucy had performed such a deep bow merely for a flask of wine. He had assumed Lucy wished to see Lu Yuan. "If young General Lu desires it, even if he emptied my entire palace's wine cellar, what harm would there be? Young General Lu, please visit Consort De at Weiyang Palace. Pregnant as she is, she must long for her family." Lucy declined. "With your Majesty's care, Consort De will surely be well. I shall not disturb her." Peiyusho's eyes, cold as a frozen pond, held an unfathomable depth. He watched Lucy, who kept his head bowed, for a long moment before finally waving him off, urging him to return home early. After Peiyusho departed, I stood 2 zhang away from him. "Young General Lu, the roads are treacherous in this snow. Please take care." Lucy smiled, weighing the wine flask in his hand. "Thank you." Once more, he vanished into the swirling snow. On New Year's Eve, the palace was adorned with lanterns and decorations according to the imperial consort's preference. She had said that common folk hung lanterns and pasted couplets during the New Year celebrations, for that was how a home felt. Peiyusho already doted on her, and with her now carrying his child, he naturally indulged her every wish. Thus, the grand palace truly felt like it was celebrating the new year. I too had a rare moment of leisure, strolling leisurely through the snow-covered grounds. Kai-Ching supported me as we walked, and soon snowflakes blanketed our heads, turning everything white. Your Highness, is this what the poem speaks of? Should we share the snow together in the future, then this life would be shared until our hair turns white. But there were 2 more lines after that. If snow could replace white hair, why would there be sorrow in this world? If you were by my side now, why would we need snow to turn our hair white? Lucy taught me those lines. That year, the snow fell heavily. He pulled me along, laughing and playing in the snow. By accident, we bumped into the pear tree in my courtyard, and fine, powdery snow showered down, covering our heads. My cheeks flushed. See, isn't this what the poem means? If we share the same snowfall one day, this life would count as growing old together? Lucy shook his head, pulling me out of the snow. He brushed the flakes from my clothes, then took off his own cloak and draped it over me. Error, there are 2 more lines after that. It speaks of lovers who cannot be together, so I dislike this poem. I nodded thoughtfully, following him to sit on the swing. He said, Error, I have a surprise for you. No sooner had the words left his mouth than a wisp of fireworks rose into the faintly dim night sky, bursting into bloom. In an instant, dazzling fireworks spread across the sky, their brilliance mesmerizing. Do you like it? Lucy's voice sounded unusually tender in that moment. I nodded belatedly, I do. Lucy leaned closer to me, what about me? I said, Lucy, may you have peace year after year. Back then, I didn't have the courage to tell him I liked him too. A loud bang echoed, and I saw more fireworks. Far beyond the palace gates, cluster after cluster fell from the night sky, landing deep within my heart. Kai-Ching couldn't help but sigh, so beautiful. Just as beautiful as the fireworks 5 years ago. I said nothing, only watched quietly until the last speck of light streaked across the sky, leaving nothing behind. Fireworks are lovely, but they cannot be held. For some reason, the path back to Fury Palace felt unusually long, as if it would never end. Kai-Ching urged me, Your Majesty, the winter wind is fierce. You should return soon. Return? But that cold, lifeless Fury Palace was not my home. 5 years ago, I would have lamented the passing seasons, weeping and making a scene. Back then, I was the Jiang family's daughter, Lucy's treasured possession. But not anymore. Now I am the Empress of Dashing, stripped even of the right to cry or make a scene. Upon returning to Fury Palace, Consort Shu came to greet me. The moment our eyes met, I knew something was amiss. Your Majesty, did you see the fireworks? In my 2 years at court, this is the first time I've witnessed such a magnificent display. I nodded and sat down beside Consort Shu. They were indeed beautiful. Did Consort Xian see them? Lu Yuan forced a smile. I appreciate your kindness, Your Majesty. His Majesty fears the Lu family. It's best my brother didn't come to see me. It would be unwise to risk accusations of illicit communication between the imperial court and the harem. Now that she was about to become a mother, she had grown considerably more sensible. Yet Consort De, usually so talkative and wearing her emotions on her sleeve, remained silent for a long while, merely drinking cup after cup of wine. Consort Shu whispered softly in my ear, Today in the palace hall, they mentioned that the young princess of the Rong prince's household is to be married off, to the minister of the Temple of Rights. That's Yingshi's beloved. That night, Consort De drank heavily and became intoxicated. I'm the one who wronged him. He's getting married, I shouldn't feel sad. But why? Why was I the only one who had to enter the palace? I'll bless him. Wish him peace and prosperity. A house full of children and grandchildren. Pei Yuxiu, I hate you. The noble Consort Shu hurriedly covered the noble Consort De's mouth. Your Highness, Yingshi is drunk and speaking nonsense. Kai-Ching immediately brought a bowl of sobering tea, coaxing the noble Consort De to drink it. After finally calming the noble Consort De, the noble Consort Shu could no longer hold back her tears. This deep palace is going to suffocate us all. The Tenjiang Palace walls are too high. We can see the fireworks rising, but never the hands that set them off. Your Highness, I'm destined to spend my entire life within these red walls. I refuse to accept it. Xian Fei stroked her swollen belly. Your Highness is right. Having a child is always a blessing. In the decades of loneliness ahead, there will be someone to lean on, someone to hold dear. Yes, at least it wasn't a life with no end in sight. Life must go on, day after day, enduring. Endure it, and it will pass. On New Year's Eve that year, no one seemed joyful, each immersed in their own sorrow. Perhaps because the imperial consort had previously suffered a miscarriage after falling into the water, damaging her health, this pregnancy was also unstable. Emperor He ordered all imperial physicians to stand ready at all times, fearing the worst might happen to the consort. The imperial harem was fraught with troubles, and the frontiers were restless too. The kingdom of Yu had launched another war against the great Qing dynasty. The Liu family's army once again marched to the battlefield. Along with the news came Consort Xian. This was the first time she had cried since hearing Emperor Peiyusho's words with her own ears. "Your Highness, I had a nightmare. I dreamed father and brother died on the battlefield. They won't come back." Sniffle. Sister liar. I'm so scared. I shared that same sense of dread. That blue and white porcelain figurine I'd accidentally smashed felt like an ominous omen. I soothed Lu Yuan. "Don't be afraid, everything will be fine. General Liu has seen countless battles, he will surely return victorious. Yuan, take good care of yourself and deliver the child safely. That is your talisman, you know?" Lu Yuan nodded while tears streamed down her face. After lulling Lu Yuan to sleep, Kai Qing massaged my aching temples. "Your Highness, the consort is only 16. So young and inexperienced, it's no wonder a nightmare could frighten her. Rest assured, nothing will come of it." Gazing beyond the palace gates at the fresh buds sprouting from the pear blossoms, I knew that direction led to the frontier, where Lucy fought fiercely. Yet separated by 10,000 miles, I could not see his figure. My heart remained restless, so I placed a Buddha statue in Fengyi Palace. Day after day, I burned incense and bowed, praying only for my AC's safe return. While war raged on that front, here the consort Xian's excessive worry led to premature labor. The consort De, the consort Shu, and I knelt before the Buddha statue, beseeching divine protection. From daylight until deep into the night, waves of agonized cries echoed. The midwife declared it a difficult birth, demanding the imperial physician perform acupuncture. But where were the physicians? They were all waiting in the Reed Palace. When I arrived, Peiyusho was coaxing Li Yangyang to eat honey dates. "Your Majesty, Consort Xian is in labor. It's a difficult birth. I've come to request the physician." Peiyusho frowned but remained silent. Suppressing my anger, I pressed, "Your Majesty, Consort Xian's father and brother are currently on the battlefield. Should anything happen to her, it could shake the morale of our troops." The implication was clear: if Consort Xian died in childbirth, would the Liu family still fight for your throne? Finally, Peiyusho consented. 2 imperial physicians followed me into Weiyang Palace. Perhaps the gods truly heard our pleas. Lu Yuan delivered a child safely. Pale and hoarse, she insisted on watching as the infant was placed in my arms. "Your Majesty, look. Just look." I looked. "It's a prince." Lu Yuan's expression was hard to read, whether joy or sorrow, as she gazed at the moon outside the palace gates, its light reflecting in her troubled eyes. The infant prince had passed his first month, yet Peiyusho hadn't even given him a name. I knew he was waiting for the imperial consort to give birth in 2 months. What he truly desired was the child in Li Yangyang's womb. The consort Xian didn't argue with Peiyusho. She arranged the full-month banquet herself, inviting only the 3 of us. At the feast, the consort Shu held the child close, refusing to let go. How could there be such an adorable little one in this world? They say nephews resemble their uncles. Look, he truly resembles General Liu. With that, she handed the child to me. The resemblance was uncanny, the eyebrows, the nose, especially those eyes. Bright and clear like Liu Xi's, as if they held a galaxy within. "Nian is so well-behaved, quite unlike her elder brother," Consort Xian murmured, her smile tender and loving as she gazed at the child. Nian was the nickname she had chosen for the baby. She was thinking of her father and brother. Consort De coughed twice. "Alas, I shall never have a child of my own in this lifetime." Ever since that New Year's Eve, Consort De had fallen ill. She took medicine intermittently, yet showed no signs of improvement. Consort Shu said Consort De's illness stemmed from pent-up sorrow. Her heart ached for the Minister of Rights, a love she could never have. Even in summer, Consort De's maid still draped a light robe over her shoulders. The virtuous consort smiled, taking Nian Nian from my arms to place her in the Consort De's. Nian Nian is also her sister's child. Without a father, having 4 mothers is even better. Holding the little bundle in her arms, the Consort De beamed, unable to stop smiling. Very well. From now on, I shall be Nian Nian's mother too. On the day the noble consort gave birth, a heavy rain fell. Her cries were no less intense than those of the virtuous consort on her delivery day. Basins of bloody water were carried out one after another, and imperial physicians came and went in waves. Each physician who emerged sighed with regret and worry. Dystocia. Dystocia again. But the noble consort's body was already damaged. After enduring such hardship, she gave birth to a stillborn child. She fainted on the spot. Peiyusho kept vigil by her bedside all night, while simultaneously ordering a thorough investigation into who had poisoned the imperial consort within the Reed Palace. I knelt before him, bearing the full force of the sovereign's wrath. How have you served as empress? You didn't even know the imperial consort was poisoned. What use are you? Shattered porcelain fragments flew, slicing a gash across my wrist. Soon, the poisoner was brought forth, a palace made from the Reed Palace. After learning the details, he waved his hand, and the maid was executed. I arranged her funeral rites. Consort Shu sighed beside me. The emperor showers his favor on the imperial consort, yet it's the lowly maids and eunuchs who suffer. Peiyusho is committing a grave sin. Simply because the imperial consort fancied catching fireflies on a whim, Peiyusho ordered palace maids and eunuchs to capture them from the mountains. That day, a young palace maid stumbled and fell off a cliff. She was the sister of this very young palace maid. It was the height of summer, the weather scorching and oppressive. War reports arrived from the frontier. Daxiang had won a Pyrrhic victory over you, but the Lu family father and son had perished on the battlefield, their bodies returned riddled with wounds. At Hanshan Pass, the Lu army had routed the Yu forces. In their pursuit, they fell into an ambush. Thousands of Lu soldiers, including the Lu family father and son, were slaughtered by a hail of arrows within the trap. When I heard the news, the needle in my hand plunged deep into my finger. A bead of blood seeped out, dripping onto the jade pendant. In a panic, I tried to wipe the bloodstain clean from the pendant, but the more I wiped, the more it spread, mingling with my tears. What should I do, Lucy? I can't wipe this blood away. It hurts so much. Lucy, it hurts so much. How could you leave me behind? Sitting beneath the pear tree all night, in a daze, I thought I saw Lucy again. As empress, I stood with Peiyusho at the city gate, welcoming the coffins of the Lu family father and son into the city. The people mourned, some even dressed in mourning robes, kneeling along the roadside, wailing that heaven envied their talent. The coffins were carried into the loyal righteousness Marquis's residence. Peiyusho led me inside to offer incense. I never even got to see his body, never got to see him one last time. Lu Yuan knelt clutching Nian Nian at the entrance to Qinin Palace, begging Peiyusho to let her return to the loyal righteousness Marquis's residence to keep vigil for her father and brother. Peiyusho refused. I opened an umbrella to shield Lu Yuan from the scorching sun. Inside Qinin Palace, Peiyusho frowned at me. What? Have you come to plead on behalf of Consort Xian? Your Majesty, with the Lu family father and son now fallen in battle, only Consort Xian remains. Denying her return to mourn may invite speculation among the people. The imperial consort was escorted inside. Peiyusho hurried to assist her to a seat. Yangyang, your health hasn't fully recovered. Why have you come here? Li Yangyang glanced at Lu Yuan, kneeling stiffly by the doorway. Your Majesty, please let Consort Xian go. Consider it accumulating virtue for our child. At the mention of their lost child, Peiyusho's expression darkened further. After a long silence, he finally consented. The funeral for the Lu family father and son was grand. Citizens from across the city came to bid them farewell, every household draped in white mourning cloth. Inside the carriage, Peiyusho let out a cold laugh. If I were to die, I doubt I'd receive such a grand send-off. The eunuch bowed his head low, dared not respond. After the funeral rites concluded, Consort Xian arrived at Funi Palace cradling Yangyang. She handed me a blood-stained pouch embroidered with a pear tree. My elder brother clutched this tightly in his hand. I couldn't pry it from him at first, but when I told him I'd give it to Sister Lyre, he finally let go. I know. You gave it to him. He carried it with him every day, never parting with it. He wouldn't even let me touch it. Sister Lyre, are you at peace? It was Pei Yuxiu who tore you apart. Back then, Lu Si and I were already betrothed. I was supposed to marry him. Before his departure, he handed me the jade pendant. This was passed down in the Lu family for their bride. Now I entrust it to you, along with my heart. Treasure it. Taking the pouch I'd made, he gently embraced me, just once, with deep affection yet restraint. When I return, we'll marry. He didn't know the pouch held a talisman I'd begged for, step by step, on my knees. I only wished for his safe return. I waited and waited. Before he could come back, I was crowned empress and carried into the palace. My imperial carriage entered the palace grounds just as his horse reached the gates of the chancellor's residence. He never saw me. I never saw him. And so, forever separated by a high wall, we remained unseen and untouched. Now, we are even separated by life and death. Lu Yuan handed Yangyang to me. Xian, that's the name I chose for him. Sister Lyre, do you think Xian can become emperor? The consort Xian left Xian behind and returned alone to Weiyang Palace. Soon, Weiyang Palace descended into chaos. A raging fire reduced the magnificent palace to ashes. Lu Yuan informed Pei Yuxiu that she possessed evidence fiercely guarded by the Lu family's personal guards, proof that the deaths of the Lu father and son in battle were suspicious. Pei Yuxiu rushed to Weiyang Palace. What awaited him was the sharp blade in Lu Yuan's hand, plunging straight into his heart. Only the sheer number of guards rushing to the emperor's aid prevented his immediate death. With matters thus settled, Lu Yuan's heart turned to ashes. She seized a candlestick and set the palace of everlasting peace ablaze. Standing amidst the flames, she hurled curses at Pei Yuxiu outside. Pei Yuxiu! You slaughtered loyal subjects, may you die a miserable death. My Lu family has served as loyal martyrs for generations, yet we were cursed to encounter you, this tyrant. Pei Yuxiu, you deserve death. You must pay for the lives of my father and brothers, for the soldiers of the Lu family army who died horribly. Pei Yuxiu, I curse you, may you never have offspring in this lifetime. The souls of the countless heroes of the Lu family army will await you in the underworld. The blazing inferno illuminated half the sky of the great prosperity. Xian in my arms wept uncontrollably, as if he knew he had lost his last remaining relative in this world. I whispered soothingly, good boy, everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. Don't be afraid. Xian cried incessantly, so I had to call upon Consort De and Consort Shu to help comfort him. Consort De's illness had improved, though she no longer smiled as often as before. She held out a leaf card to distract Xian. I wonder when you'll grow up enough to play leaf cards with us. Now we're short one player again. Consort Shu placed a newly made tiger head cap on Xian's head. Children grow so fast. The cap I made last month already doesn't fit this month. The conversation shifted. The emperor has been acting like a madman lately, constantly taking new consorts, showering them with favor. I hear he and the noble consort are at it every day. Consort De teased Xian. Who cares? As long as they don't bother us. I suspect Lu Yuan's dying words must have shaken Pei Yuxiu. He fears he truly has no heir. Amidst the commotion and the quiet, another year passed. The imperial consort visited Funi Palace. This was her first time entering my palace in the 4 years since she entered the palace. She gave me some trinkets she had made herself. I originally made these for my own child, but now they're useless. Give them to Xian. He's a good boy. She said, looking at me. Your Majesty, I truly cannot fathom you noble ladies. You care only for your family's glory, not the emperor's favor, dutifully fulfilling your roles. But isn't that utterly dull? How can one live life so rigidly, so monotonously? Truthfully, I still prefer life in the fields, unfettered and free. More importantly, it was just me and Xiao. No imperial court, no emperor or consorts, just Li Yangyang and Pei Yushu. But those days are gone forever. As she left, I couldn't help but call after her. Consort, perhaps you should think more about the future. The days ahead are long. Her body stiffened for a moment. Turning her back to me, she shook her head. The longer the days, the harder they are to endure. Li Yangyang returned to the Reed Palace, took poison, and died before Pei Yushu's eyes. They say the emperor went mad, clutching the consort as he rushed to find the imperial physician. But the words she spoke before her death made him collapse on the spot. Pei Yushu, you betrayed our lifelong promise. You are the one who wronged me. Pei Yushu, I hate you. I hate you. Pei Yushu fell ill, leaving me to arrange the consort's funeral. Standing beside Consort Shu, I watched the coffin carried into the imperial mausoleum. Pei Yushu wished to be buried alongside Li Yangyang. The noble consort sighed. The imperial consort lived her entire life for Pei Yushu's favor. She clung to that lifelong promise for years. Now that Pei Yushu has personally shattered that vow, Li Yangyang had no reason left to live. What a tragic pair of star-crossed lovers. I shook my head. The woman was indeed tragic, but whether the man was truly devoted is another matter. Had Pei Yushu not taken favor with concubines one after another, Li Yangyang wouldn't have grown so disillusioned she ended her life by poison. In the end, it was Pei Yushu who betrayed her. After the imperial consort's death, Pei Yushu was haunted by nightmares night after night. He seemed to be losing his mind, yet he continued to favor concubines relentlessly. He muttered, "I will have an heir." Her words mean nothing. Nothing. But no matter how hard he tried, none of the consorts he favored showed any signs of pregnancy. It wasn't until a year later, when he was on the brink of death, that Pei Yushu finally received the news he'd longed for. Consort Zhao was pregnant. The once weak Pei Yushu instantly perked up, downing 2 bowls of bird's nest porridge. "I told you! As the son of heaven, how could I be cursed by a villain?" I nodded repeatedly, presenting the organized memorials to Pei Yushu. He nodded with satisfaction. The Empress has done well. These past days, all affairs of the court and the harem have relied on the Empress's diligence. I tucked away the memorials. Trivial matters. After all, as the daughter of the Chancellor, my education since childhood has been no less than His Majesty's. Pei Yushu seemed oblivious to the subtext in my words, still immersed in the joy of Consort Zhao's pregnancy. Once Consort Zhao delivers the prince, he shall be raised by the Empress. He will become the crown prince, the future ruler of the realm. I spoke casually, and what of the eldest prince? A grim expression crossed Pei Yushu's face. Naturally, the Liu family's bloodline must not be allowed to persist. I nodded with understanding. Half a year passed, and Consort Zhao's swollen belly signaled her impending delivery. I led her before Pei Yushu. "Your Majesty, the child within Consort Zhao's womb is not yours." She consorted with a eunuch in the palace who was not properly castrated, resulting in this abomination. Consort Zhao trembled like a leaf, pleading for mercy. But how could Pei Yushu possibly spare her? He drew the sword from the bedside and thrust it through Zhao Marin's abdomen. Immediately, a mouthful of black blood spewed forth. When I awoke, a full day and night had passed. I sat upon the dragon throne, reviewing memorials and sealing them with the imperial jade seal. Pei Yushu flew into a rage, pointing at me. You audacious woman! How dare you review memorials without permission?" I lifted my gaze to meet his. "Your Majesty, please examine this. Is it not well written? Had you not been gravely ill, this edict of self-reproach would have been penned by your own hand." Pei Yushu stared at me as if suddenly realizing something. "You poisoned me. Who did you bribe?" I smiled as I sat down opposite him. As the head of the harem and the eldest daughter of the Chancellor, it's only natural that I have a few trusted confidants. "Your Majesty, do you know how many within these palace walls have received favors from the Liu family?" At the mention of the Liu family, Pei Yushu's anger flared, and he roared. "The Liu family! Always the Liu family! What right do you have to avenge the Liu family?" Is it because of Consort Xian? I arched my eyebrow and laughed. Your Majesty seems to have forgotten, I was meant to be Lu Ci's wife. Pei Yusho fell silent for a long moment before recalling, yes. Yes. I remember now. When I learned the Chancellor's household and the Marquis of Loyalty's household were to form an alliance through marriage, I hastily issued an imperial decree crowning you Empress. I would never permit either house to gain an opportunity to usurp the throne. His words came out hurriedly, laced with fury, his breath coming in sharp gasps. I nodded with understanding. You severed the Jiang and Lu family's ties through marriage. You even took the youngest Lu daughter into the palace. Then, I choked out. Why? Why did you still have the Lu family father and son killed? While Consort Xian was keeping vigil for her father and brother at the loyal righteous Marquis's residence, the Lu family's personal guards had indeed revealed the truth of their brutal deaths. It was Pei Yusho who had orchestrated the ambush. He sent troops charging into the trap, and the Lu father and son followed in an attempt to save the thousands of soldiers trapped there. The entire area was surrounded by Pei Yusho's forces. In the end, the Lu father and son sacrificed their lives. The guards had no concrete evidence, but she had personally heard the commander leading the charge into the trap declare that as long as they followed His Majesty's orders and ensured the Lu family's demise here, they would be rewarded with promotions and titles. That was why Lu Yuan had resolved to die, thrusting his sword at Pei Yusho. Pei Yusho laughed too, a loud, booming laugh that made him cough up blood. The Lu family's achievements now threatened the throne. The entire realm should be mine, yet father and son cling to the Lu family's military power, refusing to yield it to me. I have no choice but to take their lives. They are in the wrong, daring to use military power to suppress me. How could that be? I will not tolerate it. Late autumn had arrived once more, and the leaves outside the window had all turned yellow. Your Majesty, do you even know my name? Xian Fei, De Fei, Shu Fei, do you know their names? Pei Yusho narrowed his eyes at me, puzzled by this sudden question. I gave a bitter smile. You didn't even know our names, yet you ruined our lives. Look at yourself, Pei Yusho, how cruel you are. Your heart belongs only to Li Yangyang, yet you betray her time and again for imperial power. Do you truly love her? Pei Yusho, you love only yourself. Pei Yusho erupted in fury, struggling to push the vase beside the bed until it shattered. You're lying. I love her. She's the only one I've ever loved. Standing not far from him, I watched his face twist into a hideous grimace. You loved Li Yangyang because she had no powerful maternal clan. Such a beloved would never threaten your position, never give any imperial in-laws leverage over you. If you truly loved her, none of us would exist. You wouldn't have repeatedly favored other concubines. A single tear slid from Pei Yusho's eye. It was her reckless leap into the lake that left her barren. I only sought to perpetuate the imperial line. I did nothing wrong. It was her jealousy. She couldn't be bothered to argue with him. Men like him would never admit fault. Your Majesty, you can bear no more children because the imperial consort poisoned you. Killing him with words, this way, he would die in agony. Pei Yusho died on the day of the first snow. Not a single soul in the palace shed a tear for him. The sole surviving prince ascended the throne, and I became Empress Dowager. The new emperor's first edict upon his accession was the late emperor's self-reproach decree. It exposed how he had persecuted loyal officials, disregarding their lives. Suddenly, countless commoners flocked to the Lu family mausoleum to pay their respects, while the imperial tombs were inexplicably haunted by unclean spirits. Now, it's the consort Shu's turn. No, it was consort Shu, staring blankly at the leaf-shaped token. Now, two are missing. I wonder how Yingshi and her beloved husband are faring. The Minister of Rites never married, instead breaking his left leg and becoming lame. The young princess naturally refused to remarry, and the marriage was abandoned. Half a year after the late emperor's death, Consort De also passed away due to illness. I glared at her. Ruoi, come help me handle these matters. We all have names, Jiang Liar, Lu Yuan, Lin Yingshi, Lu Ruoi. Not Empress, Consort Xian, Consort De, Consort Shu. 12 years later, Xian could independently handle court affairs, freeing me from worry. Even father praised him, truly worthy of the Lu lineage, excellent in both military strategy and governance. He will surely be a wise ruler. Yet occasionally, he'd still bring a small stool to sit beside me. Mother, your son still longs to hear tales of the Lu family's army, especially my uncle's heroic deeds. Ruoy and I lay in rocking chairs in Sinaying Palace, basking in the sun. Suddenly, Ruoy asked me, "Liar, I've never heard the story of you and General Lu. Tell me quickly, how did you two fall in love?" Let me think. It was under the pear blossom tree, I believe, when he took my hand. Error, I like you. The end.